Hi, welcome back to the Kenny Veach Cave case mystery. Today, I just wanted to do a discussion on an important point with a comparison to other cases out there in general to try and get a perspective and understanding on why, when it comes to the Kenny Veach case, if a family member or a related person close to Kenny comes on in, why do they get dismissed so quickly? Or at least, why are they not acknowledged the same way as others would be in other cases out there? I just want to try and understand that today, okay? In addition, I'll I'll be responding back to J Chuck as well. Not a direct response, but I just want to give you my thoughts and observations, J Chuck. So hopefully you are here, you're listening and ready. I just want to mention some key pointers, okay? In addition, we can look back at comments from the last video I did. In terms of the reach, in terms of the growth there, and the awareness, that seems to be working out and fine. That's good to know. Unfortunately, the cough is still there, and today it seems to be playing up, which really does annoy me, but what the fuck can I do about it? As for yesterday, I guess the flow wasn't, well, it wasn't yesterday, was it? It was the day before, I think, when I made that video. If you are interested in the last video that I covered, a very important, critical, interesting finding, be sure to catch up on it. Top right corner of the screen, you click on the eye symbol, you'll be redirected to check it out. Make sure to do so you learn about the latest findings within this case. As for those that are currently here in this live premiere, feel free to share your thoughts, opinions, reactions in the live chat box, right hand side of the screen. And for those catching up, feel free to leave comments down below. Also down below, you'll find some additional links regarding my channel. If you wish to check them out, or if you want to support the channel in other ways, the links are available down below. So, some important discussions today, and as well acknowledging the comments or any questions from the last video I did. There appears to be a potential new cave hiker, maybe going out there in the future in a few weeks or so. I guess we'll see how that goes. There was a previous hiker that was supposed to be going out there as well, but we never really heard back from them. Whether that person out there was responsible for the recent additions to the mine shaft or not, that remains a question. As said, take in mind, there is another video that needs to be covered on the mine shaft. I'm going to get round to doing that. But I didn't want to do a back-to-back video, considering the last one that was done was in relation to the mine shaft. I felt if I did two videos back-to-back, one might overshadow the other and people would miss it or not bother watching it. That's why sometimes with these type of videos and the case in general, it just needs to be spread out and controlled in order for maximum, viewing, maximum spreading awareness so people do watch. Because as we saw within the Dylan Rounds case, if I did get a bit carried away and I had a lot of videos and ideas, if I did multiple videos in one day, it was detrimental to people learning because not everybody could keep up with them. So that's why here, where it's very important, it needs to be controlled. So hopefully people understand that. In terms of how we kick off things today, maybe it is best referring to J Chuck first before I forget. So J Chuck, hopefully you are there. If the flow of when I'm talking does change, that's just because I'm trying not to cough, okay? It's still there and it's still annoying, pissing me off. But anyway, when it comes to you, J Chuck, Cave hiker, Kenny Veach searcher, been out there several times now, putting a lot of effort, putting a lot of work in terms of your behavior or just in general, your focus. I would say, J Chuck, arguably speaking, this is just from my point of view, you're at your best when you're focused on Kenny Veach, or at least just in general focused on hiking, whether it be all about Kenny Veach or just hiking in general, wherever it may be, okay? I know you've made some points saying when you are around crowds in busy populated areas, it can be a bit messy at times. It could lead to you being worse off for whatever reason that may be. But when you're out in the open, there is no cancer, there are no parasites, there's no toxic humans around, or there shouldn't be. And there are in few numbers. So whilst being out there hiking in the mountains, all you may have to deal with is the wildlife and if there's any dangers there or not, and just the environment itself, depending where you are and the temperatures. But you seem to have that under control most of the time. You've been able to do quite a few successful hikes. So it's, if it's by choice, it's about keeping it up because it seems to work best for you. And if you were ever interested in your own channel, I guess your discussions when it comes to Kenny Veach, that's where it seems to shine the most. But obviously, you got a range of knowledge and topics to talk about in general, so I guess you do that. But this is just coming from me as an observation. You seem to be at your best when you're engaging with the Kenny Veach case. And the reason why I say that and highlight it in a bold way is because there's been many humans with time, audience members or creators, that have covered this case and participated, and something's gone wrong at a point in time where they've changed in behaviour, they've gone dark, they've gone quiet, they've acted out, they've changed, and it's been noticeable. But with you, J Chuck, I haven't really noticed a change within you. I mean, you might not agree with this, but if you were referring to how you got in trouble in the past, and that was because the environments you were in, you compare that to now, what you've recently done and done since, I guess, 2020 or 21 onwards, whilst being out in the desert, arguably, you've not really got in any trouble there or done anything wrong. You've not caused any problems. You've not damaged. You've not harmed the case. It's been okay. So you could say there's been a shift and change within you, but for the better, for the right reasons. The more you focus on Kenny Veach or cases in general, or hikes overall, just hiking out there and maybe searching for someone, or just taking in the nature, does it calm you? Does it make you feel more focused? Or is your focus on being in those type of areas? So you combine one factor with another element and it connects, it works, the chemistry's there. So I would say at least that despite all the other people out there that may have changed for the worst when it comes to this case, it's not had a negative change on you. I don't know if it's had a negative impact on you whilst covering this Kenny Veach case, whether it be the people you've been involved with, the people that have come and gone, like Nelia, that, Russian person, Mount Everest tour guide, never seen again, and your outlooks on Susan or Sharon Pilgrim, right? So I don't know if there's been elements within the case or community which has had a negative impact on you, but at least for the case directly and actually being out there, boots on ground, maybe it's had more positives. Let me know. Let me know your thoughts, J Chuck, down below, whether you agree or not. Just let me know. Are you better focused, or are you better off when you're doing what you have been doing compared to the past? Let me know your thoughts there. Because, all these people have the different channels and stuff, but it depends when the channels are created and when people started engaging on YouTube, right? Like when it comes to me, you compare what I was doing in the past on YouTube, it was a failure. You compare what I'm doing now, it's somewhat meaningful and there is growth with it. And as well, things being solved along the way. So more success now in many different ways, besides some people like to bash the monetary stuff. But in terms of actually the community and building a focus, that's been in place compared to back then. And it's just because a change was made from what I was doing, changing to Kenny Veach coverage, there was a positive that came out of it. Yes, I did expand and branch off by doing Dylan rounds too, and that worked out quite well, for sure, especially with gaining a new, wider range, stronger support of people, which has been quite a positive, right? Now, changes in behaviour within people in the Dylan Rounds case is a bit more complex and messy, as some of you will know. We don't need to get into that right now because this is Kenny Veach mainly and the M Cave. But I just wanted to mention the points there. So hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully this audio and how I talk is okay, but the flow isn't too good today, I think, in my opinion. So apologies in advance. Now, I want to move on to the important talking point, the discussion topic of today. When it comes to family members, friends, people related or in close proximity to a victim, to a missing person, and the knowledge and wealth that they can bring to a case if they do so happen to get involved somewhere such as a platform like YouTube. And I will be using comparisons and examples to the Dylan Rounds case, okay? Because I think it's quite important. Now, when it came to the Dylan Rounds case, it was basically along the lines of, we'll look up to that person, listen to them, almost like gospel, but then that individual over there, no, we don't trust, the dodgy, the shady, they've got a past, this has been exposed, that's been exposed, we're going to stay away from them. And then as time's gone on, the other person that they supported has shown a bit of a darker side, or certain mistakes were made, but very forgiving of that person, the audience, but not as forgiving towards the other individual. The comparison there would have been Candice Cooley to Justin Rounds, okay? Both parents of Dylan Rounds, but how they've dealt with the case and what they've said about the case differs from one another. One might be more verbal and vocal online at some points, and very pushy in the legal aspects and the help and what needs to be done, put forward, such as Candice Cooley, and then the other more boots on ground, actively searching for Dylan Rounds' son, Justin Rounds. So different roles, different areas, different attitudes maybe, but the outlook from the general public does differ from one another, right? Now, when it comes to a key individual reaching out to, online, on a YouTube channel, there's a live stream, a live call-in, that normally that would be welcomed, right? I mean, was it in the Dylan Rounds case? I guess in the early days it was. In the mid-range time, I guess that was welcome too, which is a positive, but apologies, but not everybody may have been welcomed with the same reception, okay? Ty Corbin was welcomed majority of the time. Candice Cooley was welcomed on No Thanks channel and maybe Zav Girls, but, the other people out there or audience members weren't quite, positive or as welcoming towards Candice Cooley because they had a different outlook, a negative outlook on Candice Cooley. But, I think at the end of the day, most people still listened or took it on board and took notes, whether they agreed with it or not, but also noted contradictions and inaccuracies at times. And I kind of did that here and there, okay? Justin Rounds never really participated in actual interviews or channels and communities online because he doesn't really like YouTube, which is, okay, fair point, okay? But yeah, certain people, like, you might wonder who Ty Corbin is. Well, a person that didn't know Dylan Rounds exactly at the time, but in terms of the location and being able to go boots on ground out there, there was like the ability of the knowledge of the area, what's around and what's present, and the knowledge of Brenner, the key suspect and the person charged with the murder of Dylan Rounds, right? So with having a bit of background knowledge of, the area, the gossip, the talk, and previous events which could link in with Dylan or leading up to the events of Dylan's disappearance, people like that, a person of interest who may know something, can be utilised efficiently and well in cases and in interviews. And normally when someone comes along like that, who's got experience or knowledge, the general public could tend to be quite excited and welcoming of it. And it was kind of demonstrated there in the Dylan Rounds case up to a certain point, okay? And as I said, not everybody was welcomed the same way. Not everyone was trusted either, but there was still like a level of anticipation of, wow, look, someone's coming on in to speak. Let's listen. Let's all gather and see what they've got to say. Now, does that compare to the Kenny Veach case? I don't think so. Now, okay, we're comparing interviews to people just reaching out via comments and stuff, so it can differ there. But at the end of the day, if the person is genuine or somewhat genuine, and they've got a message to put across, a message to deliver, there's no harm in listening in, right? And if it is, if it is a key person out there, well, then we should listen to them, right? And see what they've got to say, because it could be of interest. But does that happen? I don't think so. And maybe, and this might be the issue with the Kenny Veach case, that you got someone like Susan Veach, a key example, right? Sister-in-law to Kenny Veach, a Veach-related family member, a key individual, right? Somebody that's been around the Veach family, okay? I guess being around Sharon Pilgrim too, the girlfriend of Kenny Veach, and Susan being in the presence physically around Kenny Veach. So Susan would have seen, heard, experienced things no one else would have, at least from those that claim knowledge who are online. You get what I'm saying? You're just breaking it down to the pure basics. You got someone online that supposedly knows a lot, and then you got Susan Veach that reaches out online, who has had first-hand real-life experience and encounters with these different people. Who are you more likely to listen to? A Veach-related family member in real life, or just somebody online, right? But I guess maybe it's not that easy in thinking that way when it comes to this case. And as I was going to say, the biggest issue is there's been some fake people and fake accounts over time, in the early days up to even now. And because of that, in between, when a genuine person has stepped on in, you know, they might have been dismissed or not taken as seriously. Do you get what I'm saying? Sometimes you encounter a frequent experience and it may be negative, so you build yourself up and your mind adapts. So when the next person comes in, you're probably going to be like, oh, here we go again, fake person, BS, wasted time, brush them aside. And then missed opportunity, because the odd genuine person does come on in and they're just completely dismissed and thrown away, and it just is a shame. But I can understand that all the previous experiences haven't gone too well, so you build up like a defense mechanism, defensiveness, where you don't want any more of that drama, conflict and wasted time and BS. So when anyone else comes along in the future, you don't bother with. How are you supposed to make progress in a case though, if you have that mentality, right? Basically, there's only two ways of thinking about it, okay? And maybe for some people, they do follow a certain route. You got A or B. A, you don't listen to anyone or anything, so you can't get deceived, you can't get tricked, you can't get screwed, but ultimately, you don't get anywhere. You don't make any progress. You don't learn anything new. You're not aware of the breaking news when it does come about. So you can just shut it all out and ignore it all. But what good does that do? It doesn't really help. Or you could, apologies, it's just a cough, it's or you could take it all in, okay? Listen as you go along, and for those that you don't exactly trust, just listen to. You don't have to show internalization. You don't have to be brainwashed. You don't have to fully agree. Just listen at least and acknowledge their points, because here and there, whether you see it as a needle in a haystack, you might get some valuable information and key findings, right? So when someone like Susan Veach comes on in, whether you fully trust them or not, I guess there's no harm in listening to them, because they're a key individual in the case, arguably speaking, a family-related member. why dismiss them? You get what I'm saying? I mean, the response from others out there are, can we trust Susan Veach? The response from a couple of people out there are, is this the real Susan Veach? I mean, Susan Veach has like verified it, showed photos and kind of explained in the background that it is them. The same happened with Atari. Atari doesn't seem to trust Susan Veach. Atari no longer likes Susan Veach and has certain opinions about her, but Atari back then herself also confirmed that it was the real Susan Veach. Unfortunately, in between, when Susan Veach came on in, somebody out there created a fake account, an impersonation one. Similar to the Dylan Rounds case with that impersonation account, acting in a weird way, painting a negative picture of Susan, saying bad stuff, causing disruption. People fell for it, okay? And when people fell for it, when the real Susan Veach ever appeared or left comments, those people that were deceived in the first place no longer trust the real Susan. Which is obviously a shame and unfortunate, but you see how it can be successful and both damaging, in which if somebody wants to impersonate another individual out there and act in a negative way, it can be enough to deceive people, and then that causes disruption in the case, right? The only reason why it didn't exactly work to the same extent with me when people impersonated me is because I've been around longer and people know who I am and how I behave and how I act and what I say. Whereas with Susan, not as much of a presence online, people not knowing her long term. You know, it takes that time to understand the patterns of behaviour of an individual, their traits, their personality, and what they normally say, their sayings and wording language. So once you've learned that about somebody, it makes it easier to detect when there is a fake impersonation account of them. And with all the different characteristics of, this is my face, this is my voice, this is how I sound, these are the words and lines I'm using, and this is how I respond back in text, comments. Whereas with Susan Veach, not around long enough for people to understand how she behaves, right? So with taking that in mind, it would be easier to impersonate her and get away with it and pull the wool over people's eyes than if it was with me, right? So what I'm trying to say is, with these obstacles along the way, it's led to disruption and it's led to people not being as welcoming or as trustworthy towards the likes of Susan Veach due to fake impersonation accounts and other factors which have happened with time, such as the BS information given out by wannabe experts of other accounts in the past, okay? So when people have called out Susan Veach, but have also called out Gene Lovkovsky as being a BS individual with BS information, it was Susan Veach that reached out to the search and rescue and the commander, or the commander appointed at the time, and called in, inquired about, do you know of a Gene Lovkovsky, a part of the search and rescue crew, as Gene highlighted that he was back then. And basically Gene was exposed as a fake, never existed. That name never existed, okay, as for the group. Could Gene have been under a different name? There's always that chance, but, you know, if you want to believe in someone and they're saying that this is my name, my username, because it looked like a normal name, Gene Lovkovsky. It wasn't like Mystical 69 Gamer or Magic Wand 123. It wasn't like a random generated username. It was an actual name, and that name did not pop up when Susan asked the search and rescue commander, okay? So in a way, Gene was exposed as a fake, okay? So for those who are out there questioning or didn't trust Jean, but you also don't trust Susan, it was Susan Veach responsible for getting a hold of the receipts and pointing out that Jean wasn't a part of the search and rescue team, okay? See, that's what comes with key individuals in a case with certain contacts and experiences. They can provide a bit more depth and knowledge. But if that's dismissed or ignored, then you won't learn and you won't know, right? And I just think it's just a weird situation in this case, because with what I've seen elsewhere and how other key individuals in the cases have been spoken about, or at least the initial response of when they come on in with their presence, it wasn't the same way with the Kenny Veach case. There was already high tension, high caution, lack of trust, uneasiness maybe, and that's because of what's happened in the past, I know. But I think for me, my my initial response and thoughts of when Susan came on in, although it took a little bit of time, it was like, well, this should be good, because obviously they'll have different sides of the story compared to the story what we've been told, right? Because what I want to do on the spot, to put things into perspective, right? You got Susan Veach, sister-in-law to Kenny Veach. Then you've got Sharon Pilgrim, okay, girlfriend, well, ex-girlfriend of Kenny Veach at the time. Not even a family member, okay? Not in the blood. So who would you trust more? An ex-girlfriend or the sister-in-law, right? Who's become a part of the family. I mean, if Sharon Pilgrim married to Kenny and then got together like that and then became a part of the family, then maybe you could trust him more because it's part of the family and just a stronger bond. But when it's just an ex-girlfriend, in general, in life, an ex-girlfriend or an ex-boyfriend, is there much about them? What they know, what they've experienced. Have they been around long enough around that person or a family or a group? You'd think that a family member that's obviously been around longer because they're a family member will know more and experience more and have more to say than just an estranged ex-girlfriend or boyfriend booted off over there and just suddenly made an appearance all of a sudden to state this and state that. Because in general, just in general at least, when it comes to I don't know about the audience, but when it comes to the general public, they listen to the girlfriend Sharon Pilgrim, and that's through a couple of comments on on Kenny Veach's channel, okay? On Kenny Veach's channel, Sharon Pilgrim, claiming to be the ex-girlfriend of Kenny Veach, and supposedly it ties in, right? And they've got their own photos, they've got their own videos, so you can see who they are and what they look like. But in terms of the majority of those general public humans that have looked at the comments and listened in, they've not done that research to know who Sharon Pilgrim is and what she used to do, okay? Mental health professional in that field, businesses, I think real estate as well, and certain businesses were shut down, failed, didn't go too well, and it's been a bit shady since in the eyes of some that have done research on her, okay? So we may know more, but the general public don't yet. They welcome this random, person on YouTube with their comment claiming to be the girlfriend, claiming to know a lot and what they've experienced with Kenny, and maybe some of it is true, okay, but it's the fact that the general public in that situation are very easy to convince, very easygoing in listening to her and believing in what she says, even though she provides little to no evidence. So why is it that the ex-girlfriend that doesn't really provide any evidence, why does the general public believe in her, but they're quick to dismiss Susan Veach, who's an actual Veach-related family member, and has provided more evidence in different ways compared to the ex-girlfriend of Kenny. Why is the girlfriend welcomed and acknowledged and even praised, but why is Susan Veach vilified? I think it comes down to one point, and and one point only. It comes down to the basis of one person is positive about Kenny, the other individual could be seen as a bit more negative or critical. As said, people's outlooks on others can differ from person to person based off your own unique experience. Just like in the Dylan Rounds community, I may have negative outlooks on a range of characters and audience members out there from afar, and others will say to me, well, I've only seen positive, good for you, but I've been on the receiving end of negative by those people you get on well with. It is what it is. Okay, our individual experiences are true to ourselves and what we've encountered, but when you compare and contrast, it's very differing, isn't it? So take that into consideration, that when it comes to the likes of Susan Veach and Sharon Pilgrim is obviously playing the violin, you know, how sad the situation is, what's happened, and what was known in the past about mental health and suicide, but no intervention or direct action taken at the time, and just letting him go out there without any restrictions, or, you know, is it worth doing considering what you said and how you feel? Is it the right thing to do? Reporting Kenny missing late and lying, saying it was done early, weird. Appearing very caring and just emotional at the situation, and saying good things about how they had good times and were hiking in the past and it was all fine and nice, right? That's positive, right? Maybe you're reflecting back on the past or what's currently going on. Normally, if you're positive, you're favoured more and people will listen to you. But if you're negative, if you're critical, or if you're realistic, which normally associates you or labels you as a negative person, you're going to be slammed, you're going to be bashed, you might be ignored, you might be silenced, you might be shut down, you might be repressed, suppressed, whatever it may be, right? You'll be treated as the villain, right? In different circumstances, I was treated as the villain within the Dylan Rounds case at one point, just because I demonstrated such balance which no one else could match, as for the creators out there. So it can come in different ways, right? So Susan Veach, a bit more critical of Kenny, with Kenny's mindset, his attitude, things he may have done or participated in the past, his outlook on stuff with money and making it and making the most about it, but trying to exploit it and maybe not exactly in moral ways, and certain family members being on side with Kenny or in line with those type of thoughts. I can't give direct examples, but I'm just trying to summarize what Susan has been getting at. So Kenny, he comes across as a nice, innocent individual, but what lies behind that in real life, behind the doors, is a completely different individual, right? And, you know, when a person says something like that, and the person saying it is a family member and has been in the presence of these in real life, it would make more sense, wouldn't it? You know, you may see things behind closed doors compared to what other people see out there, right? It's kind of like how, when it comes to me in the past, when I was friends with somebody in the past, I saw a darker side to them and I was on the receiving end of it, okay? Only me, nobody else. Everybody else had a positive outlook on that individual. I didn't, because I saw a darker side. It wasn't good. If I did like what Susan Veach did, publicly speak out online or in real life in that situation, I would have come across as the only one giving the negative, critical statement of that individual. And because the majority of people have a positive outlook and feel of that key person, when I say what I say, which is negative, I'm going to be dismissed, I'm going to be criticised, I'm going to be bashed, I'm going to be labelled, I'm going to be pushed back, okay? That's how it is. So that happens in real life, or it would have, and it can happen online, which I guess it has with Susan. Susan Veach coming on in to inform people of what the situation is and who certain people are and their real characters in real life. Now, okay, you don't have to agree with it all. In a way, to be balanced, you shouldn't be forced to agree or internalize it, but there's no harm in at least listening because, you know, in the eyes of those people, there could be some truth within it and it could benefit you in your understanding. But by completely dismissing it, it just seems a bit reckless in a way, because if you just dismiss it, what else will you dismiss? And then you might complain saying we're not getting anywhere, we're not making any progress. Well, it might be because you've denied that opportunity of it happening already, right? So is there any other points why people are a bit critical of Susan? Because I know Jeff Clark has said how Susan seems to be negative and constantly complaining and constantly having a go at Kenny Veach. Sharon Pilgrim doesn't. So does it just come back down to the debate of if you're a positive person, you're praised, you're acknowledged, you're welcomed, and people will listen to you. And if you're negative but realistic and you do have experience, you're seen as the villain, you're repressed, you're pushed back, and you're criticised, right? Good and bad. Yeah, you can be a bit in the middle as well, but sometimes, you know, you might just not have much positive to say. You might not have really much good to say about somebody. Why should you hide it and be fake positive? That's stupid. You know, if you're going to be negative, but you're also being realistic, just do it. Just say it, right? And I guess that's what Susan has done. And, you know, along the way, Susan Veach has given out receipts, text messages, emails, passed on, then I presented it to you, okay? Is that not enough? And like even that missed phone call as well from Kenny, is that not enough? Because that's when it ties on to the next part of, okay, you might not like someone, you might not trust them just because they're a negative person. Or you might not like them because you've come across a fake impersonation account of them and you thought it was the same individual when it wasn't, but that's how you think, so you're very cautious now. But besides all of that, when it comes to the evidence which is then put across, then people put the blocker on. Is it real? Is it true? Can we believe it? Well, if people are quick enough to believe in a comment with zero evidence from Sharon Pilgrim, then why can't people do the same with Susan when actual physical evidence is provided and some form of material and receipts? You get what I'm saying? One person provides more material and evidence than the other, but the one that provides the least, if not none, seems to be believed in and trusted more. That makes zero sense. It really makes zero sense. Why do people think that way? Can anyone explain down below? Now, I know I've gathered a new audience and new people have come across along the way engaging in the Kenny Veach case who have come from the Dylan Rouse case, so their outlook may already be different on things, maybe level-headed, more understanding, but just take in mind that there'll also be original people in this community watching from the Kenny Veach days. That's why I'm trying to talk holistically, just in general. And then if you know, you can provide an answer down below as to why one person is treated differently to the other, okay? I mean, I guess people on the inside, the ones within this community, the people that have been around long enough, okay? Maybe if Sharon Pilgrim came in now, you know, people wouldn't be as welcoming and very cautious, maybe. But I'm just talking holistically, okay? There might be some inaccuracies, might not be quite practical as a comparison, but it's the only comparison I can provide at this moment in time. I guess the only other example would be the random accounts and random people that have showed up on YouTube in the comment section who appear as an expert or knowledgeable in a certain field when it comes to the case, the environment, and previous events which may have occurred out there. knowledge on military, knowledge on UFOs, right? There's a lot of supposed experts. Some of them truly are experts and others have been fake over time. People have listened to them. Why not listen to, or at least acknowledge Susan? Maybe some people will say, you know what? We have listened to Susan. We have given her the benefit of the doubt. We have been patient. Enough is enough now. We've not got anywhere. Not enough has been given. Not enough clarity. You say all this, you're all talk, but where's the actual proof of it? Where's the actual evidence of it, what you say? In certain areas, Susan, what she said, she has provided material to. Would you say 100% of it? Maybe not quite 100% of it, but then you got to take in mind, if it's active, ongoing stuff, you may have your senses about something or someone. You might have your suspicions, right? Can you prove it yet? Maybe not, but you're in the process of trying to gather material. That's just one way about it, because, not to say too much, but like in the past when Susan was wary of the odd person and where Kenny Veach could be at, research or at least some kind of investigation going in the background, ongoing at the time. Okay, so evidence couldn't just be pulled out of a magic hat just like that. Things may have been said publicly about suspicions of this person or that person, but as for gathering maybe some proof or trying to find something, that was pending. I know some people could then say, well, don't speak until you've got the material. But then again, it's only like my channel where I can say a lot and then what comes after is the material or the evidence. If I just shut up completely, would there be that many videos? Maybe not. So is it just give and take with some people or not? Let me know your thoughts down below. I'd say Susan has helped within this case as for different points of views and different angles of what others are saying and reacting, those in real life, those in connection with Kenny Veach, in the presence of Kenny Veach from the past, what they've got to say about stuff, their thoughts. Isn't it good to get a full picture of what people think and feel? So you gather it with time, and that's what one person has done. Instead of just saying that this person believes that Kenny's innocent or this person believes that Kenny is alive, Susan has provided the text messages of the responses from those people, right? But then again, I guess certain audience members have said those text messages are fake or they've been photoshopped, it's been edited, it's been adjusted, and it's like, well, at the end of the day, you know, you're supposed to have a level of trust in some people, or at least hope in some material and evidence. If you're very skeptical of it, then what hope is there? At what point, at what time in life will you be satisfied with a certain piece of evidence or material? And I think for some of those people out there, wherever they are, maybe the only form of evidence, material which would be enough for them to satisfy them would be some kind of official court document, some kind of legal paperwork, and a face-to-face interview with Kenny Veach if he was alive. I think that would be, the only other way would be full-on recognition, acknowledgement, official acknowledgement of Kenny's remains being found and it being identified and all done through the legal process. They're like the end game outcomes, right? Are we near the end game? Not quite, because the theories branching away and some of the ideas strengthening with time, whether it be literal distance or just the distance in progression of the case, it can stretch on, right? And there's new avenues and pathways to look down. It does expand the case, it expands the search and the investigation. And with the sub-mysteries along the way, yes, it can slow stuff down, but it can also be interesting. But it just creates more depth. And with more depth, it means more time in learning and finding a resolve. But I do think that some people out there will only be pleased by the literal end part of the case, right? So everything from now till then is meaningless to him, which is unfortunate, right? Because important stuff can come along the way, but they'll dismiss it. I mean, with the Dylan Rounds case, been quite a few people there that said they'll only be satisfied when the official courts, the case begins. Only when the court case begins with Brenner, when information is shared, things are talked about for the first time ever, that's what matters and nothing else does in between. Bit of a shit mindset to have, because there can be important discussions that are ongoing along the way, and there can be some small updates provided, but to them it's not enough. It isn't. They'll just ignore it. So I think that translates there to how it translates here with some. Okay, how many? I'm not quite sure, but I'm just throwing it out there as a discussion talking point, right? I'll listen to Susan when she's got points to mention or material to share. There's no harm in doing that. But the same can be done with other people out there too. You just listen. Maybe you take it on board. Maybe you just go along with it. Or maybe you do really agree with it. But it's not that difficult, is it? Right? And maybe ultimately the reason why it's important talking about this is if a person doesn't feel welcomed or they feel insulted, and maybe there's unnecessary backlash towards them, let's just say in a general situation, is a person like that willing to stick around in a community somewhere, or they're just going to pack up and go? Because if they did, that's material lost. That's an opportunity wasted, right? Kind of like the Dylan Rounds case where, let's just use an example. I don't know how true it is, but no thanks, Doug, right? Had his YouTube channel, pretty established and somewhat known, right? Did questionable things in the name of Dylan Rounds at the start, but seemed to change down the line, supposedly. Got on board with Candice Cooley in Candice Cooley's Good Books, then was able to interview Candice Cooley, the mother of Dylan Rounds, which then provided an avenue of discussions, live updates, and answering questions and just responding back to people, right? It was useful. It was helpful. There was a way of hearing the latest updates on the case from one of the family members. So that would be a positive, right? But with Doug's own actions and trouble catching up with him, and consequences, I should say, his channel was taken down. He lost it all. Okay, tried to set up another channel, lost it. Game over. Whilst his own actions may have caught up with him, it did have a negative side effect, knock-on effect, with the likes of the case itself and the other ones what he's covered in the past. And with the channel being shut down, it meant all the videos were deleted. So all that research on the different cases and Dylan Rounds gone to waste. All those interviews gone to waste. All that potential opportunities in further interviews with the likes of Candice Cooley, bridges burnt down. Bad, isn't it? No more interviews, no more updates, no more talk. The person shot themselves in the foot. So it led to no more of this or that. But if word did come about and Candice Cooley did become aware of what Doug did in the past and within the case of Dylan, maybe Candice Cooley would have walked away, or did walk away anyway, because she just didn't agree or see what Doug did as suitable or appropriate, and decided to think, you know what, I want nothing to do with him. I don't agree with that and that behaviour. I'm walking away. Well, that'd be understandable, right? Because other people did walk away because they were disgusted in certain behaviour, supposedly from Doug. So maybe Candice Cooley did the same thing. So maybe, just maybe, if Doug never got shut down, Candice Cooley may have stopped having interviews or doing interviews with Doug because of Doug's own actions. So whether it be your own actions as a creator or collectively the audience, their actions and treatment towards somebody coming on in, the reason why you should be welcoming of somebody stepping on in the first place is because they might be of help and use to the case with the knowledge they know of. You push them away, you push them back too much, they may eventually go for good and never come back. And I just see that as a wasted opportunity. So whilst people may be cautious, while some people may not like Susan's attitude and response. Some people could see it as a bit sharp or a bit abrupt, a bit rude. I don't know, right? Take in mind, I was kind of on the receiving end in the first place. The way Susan was critiquing me and having a go at me, right? That's what happened. It's not like that now. Because I guess it was an understanding with time. It took time for Susan to understand, I guess, how I respond and how I operate with stuff. Maybe a bit slower. Maybe it takes a bit more time. Maybe I do it in a different order, but she eventually understood. So how things were worded changed. The attitude changed and it was more positive, right? So for the general public who are in the same situation, let's just say, it is unfortunate, but I do understand because I was once there. But things did change and it did get a bit better, right? So there's something to take on board there. But just in general, I don't know if we'll do it as a poll. Maybe we already have done it as a poll, because sometimes I do it in different orders, right? Maybe it's too late now, but I'll try and do it earlier. Just a poll of, do you think it's a good idea to welcome someone, a key person in the case, or do you just push them away just because you don't like how they sound or how they talk, even though they may have important evidence and material? It's like in the Dylan Brown's case and community, some people decided to work together or alongside one another, even when they couldn't stand each other, for a greater cause, finding Dylan, solving the case, right? It didn't happen too often and it didn't happen long term, but attempts and efforts were made here and there, right? Should the same happen here with Kenny Veach? Maybe. Even if you can't stand one another, you work alongside one another maybe for a greater reason to solve a case. I know with that can come tension and friction and sometimes, I don't know, crossing lines with one another and trouble following. Maybe it's not always going to work, but I guess an attempt could be made, right? But at the end of the day, if people want to mention their grievances with Susan, besides how she might speak, and besides, the material already provided, what more do you want from her? Do you want her to sound more positive? Or do you want her to sound negative but realistic from her own experiences? Do you know what I'm saying? What would make the situation better? If there was a chance, if there was, well, not that it will happen, but in a different universe, let's say, what would you want from Susan Veach? What would need to change in order for you to listen to her, or just take some things on board, or just be a bit more welcoming of her? What would it take? A characteristic of her to change, something about her presence, just let me know down below. It seems a bit weird, this, and people will misunderstand it and then have a go at me afterwards and bash me later, as people tend to do, but it's just a genuine question. What changes would you want within someone for you to then have a bit more of a positive or a bit more of a trustworthy outlook on them, Let me know down below. And was it because of the past and other unrelated stuff that damaged your you having trust within people? in general, in life, anywhere, any place, you can develop trust issues because of other pricks out there that cause just disruption and pure damage, and it's fucked up, right? Did that happen here? Did that happen with anyone? Let me know. I mean, I've come across pricks in real life and in general here and there, and trust, very cautious now, very wary now, just how I am, right? So yeah, it can lead to the body adapting and changing, and then it can be unfortunate for upcoming people in the future who are just fresh, just appearing, not meaning any harm, not meaning any trouble, but then I'm like, you know what, I'm a bit more cautious, I'm a bit more strict, and they might not fully understand as to why. But stick around long enough, you find out. Just like how you stick around long enough in this case, and hopefully the people that also stick around with the information and the depth and knowledge remain around, remain consistent, and with that consistency can build a bit more trust, right? So just the thoughts down below, leave your comments. I said apologies if the video is a bit disruptive in terms of talking or the pace. Still got the cough. I wouldn't say I'm ill because I'm not dizzy, I'm not overwarm, I'm not shivering, I'm not shaking. All those symptoms have gone. Just a little cough. It doesn't cause any pain, it doesn't cause any harm. It doesn't cause any trouble at night. Well, most part of it hasn't. So it's not a major problem, it's just a disruptor, right? It ruins the flow of when I'm talking, and that's all it does. So it's not got any worse. I guess it's got a bit better, but today it's playing up. Yesterday it was fine, but today it's playing up, which is typical. But thankfully I'm not doing a full-on important focused narration today, because if I was, that would be shit, wouldn't it, right? As I said, you want a better video. If you don't quite like this one, the last video that I did could be more interesting to you, so feel free to catch up on that. What we are going to do though now is just look back at the comments from the last video I did to clear up any points there or questions. So currently there are about 40 comments on this video. That will change with time. So for those people out there that feel that I ignored their comments, I didn't. I'm just reading what's currently on the screen right now. In the future, more people may watch not this video right now, but the video that I'm reacting to as for the comments. And I'll try and respond back to those comments in the future like I've done with other videos. We got Lightbulb Guy, first like and comment, supposedly J Chuck saying that he was the one by 1 minute early. Okay, well, let's say you both came joint first or so. J Chuck says, "It wasn't me. I'm not a charitable person. I'll be discussing the rogue operative very soon. There's a pit, firewood bits and remnants all over the place." Right, so J Chuck, are you saying that it appears that somebody had a fire near to the mine shaft? As if somebody was camping there overnight? Is that what you're saying, J Chuck? Let me know. I think I saw one of J Chuck's videos talking about the look like charred wood, dark, it's been burnt. I mean, okay, I can understand somebody having a fire camping out there, as long as it doesn't cause damage to any potential evidence, you know. Yeah, the rogue theory. We talked about it in the past, I suggested it on my channel back then. Is somebody out there watching over other hikers, stalking? Is it like predator versus prey? Are they out to cause disruption? Out to cause people to get hurt or harmed? Atari seems to be in on that thought and idea as well, with the suggestion of supposedly really Robin being pushed off some hill or mountain and being in hospital, but there's no proof of that, really. Moving on, Jeff Clark responds to me saying, "Who took the original crystal skull from the mine shaft long before any of us took it seriously? None of the shown crystal skulls are the original." June says, "Wasn't it two young guys who admitted they went down twice and said they weren't going to take it?" But you know, Gene, if you're referring to the ones I'm thinking of, they did take it supposedly. That's why it was no longer there after. Jeff Clark says off the trail went out there and searched the mine, but the crystal skull was already gone. Whoever took it, still unknown. List and timeline chart of investigators' searches is on my channel. And I responded back saying, well, you had these two people who admitted it. I think they were called Mojave Outpost or Outpost Mojave or something. A group of 2 to 3 guys that went out there at some point and found it. Are they the ones saying that they put it there in the first place? I don't think so. I think they were just highlighting that they found it and took it themselves. They didn't put it there, but they took it. I think that's correct. So then the question would be, well, who put it there? That's still a mystery, okay? And, you know, to those in between that don't agree with that skull being shown by the group of guys that said they're the ones that took it, well, it still remains a mystery just in general, doesn't it, as a consensus that somebody put it there and somebody took it away, whether it be the same person that put it there in the first place or just a stranger saw it as an opportunity and thought, oh, that looks fancy and nice, I'll take it. I mean, it's only just a crystal skull at the end of the day. It's just very odd for it to be in that location, in the middle of nowhere. To cover all that distance just to put a crystal skull there seems like a lot of effort. And considering there wasn't really an expectation to come across it or find it, if it was done for attention-seeking purposes, I mean, what other reason would there be, right? So it was very random. And considering the only other person that made, you know, put the place on the map as for knowing about it would be Kenny Veach, who went missing. So is there any small chance Kenny Veach was responsible for putting the crystal skull there as like a little reminder? But it was never acknowledged by anybody. I mean, there is a link to be made. I have thought of one idea and one theory where you can tie Kenny Veach, the crystal skull, Kenny's home video, and also one of his thoughts. I can tie it all together as a future video. So be on the lookout for it. It will be a theory one, but it could be valid. It's not so much about explaining who took it, but who put it there. So I'll have to take that into consideration at some point because I'm getting a few ideas now. Moving on. Glenn, shout out Glenn. Cleo, you're welcome. Jeff saying, what happened to the camper guy who said that he had new videos of a hike out there? No clue, actually. Because I don't know if that person's still watching Care in the background. One guy said he was going to go out there and hike. He had the equipment. And we're not talking about a recent guy that's been camping or hiking in Alaska. We're talking about a person some months ago. I don't know what happened to him, if he did go out there or not. So if any updates can be provided, that would be good. I've not seen the videos myself. Jeff says, in response to one of my previous questions about who would move or why would they, Jeff saying, no, I wouldn't waste my energy building that. Those look like heavy planks. Some of them are more likely logs. Well, more like logs in characteristics. Okay. So, Jeff Clark, do you think one person was responsible for moving all that wood into that one spot? Or could it have been multiple people? I wonder. James says, would be interesting to see if the red tape matches red tape in Pitcher Canyon area near the side hill bypass for the waterfall. James, when you talk about red tape, are you talking about physical red tape in Pitcher Canyon? Because the red tape, what I was referring to was to do with when Kenny Veach was down Pitcher Canyon and it was like a whisper voice saying, follow the red tape. It wasn't actual physical red tape in the area. So just let me know your thoughts, James, whether there's a bit of a misunderstanding there or you have actually seen physical red tape in a different location. Let me know. James says, are the words written by different people in relation to the plank of wood? I think that plank of wood, it was written by the same individual, The way some of the H's are pronounced, they do look similar throughout the text. So yes, I do think it's by the same person. Yeah. Wes, glad found that interesting. June, bubble wrap, why is it left open to the elements or animals? Seems strange. Well, it didn't seem exposed. It looked like it was wrapped up in bubble wrap, and then there was like a blue tape or seal going across it, horizontal. So I think that was used to secure it and just hold it all together and preserve it. So it should be okay. But I don't know what the sell-by date of the stuff would be, how long it lasts. Is it the survival rations where it does last longer? I don't know. Will anyone actually use it or open it up? I'm not too sure. Hopefully it doesn't get used for the wrong reasons or damaged, because some person may really need it at some point. You never know. I know most that have gone out there anyway have managed, but it could still help in some way or another. We got Dale Shackley, a different Dale, saying, very interesting, okay, just a what if, but what if Kenny Veach is alive and he put the cash out there himself as a thank you to those who care enough to continue searching for him? Not real probable or no real evidence to that effect, but something to think about. Fair point. To be honest, in my opinion, I don't think Kenny would be doing it for positive reasons. If Kenny Veach was actually involved, I just don't think he would be, doing it to look out for other hikers out there, fellow hikers, because if Kenny Veach really cared about people, if Kenny Veach really cared about the safety and survival of fellow hikers going out there searching for him, the best thing Kenny Veach could do is publicly announce that he's alive and, he's okay. Like how Susan Veach has done? Susan Veach, with her knowledge, her thoughts, and the material she's gathered with time, she's pushed the idea that people that go out there hiking, it's a waste of time and there's a high risk, low reward because Kenny simply isn't out there, he's elsewhere, and he's alive. Other people have taken that response the wrong way, and I guess negatively interpreting it as Susan is trying to put off people from going out there, right? And I can kind of understand that, because I've seen resistance myself where people have told me to stop this or to stop doing that. Well, those occasions, it was trolls, it was pathetic people with no substance, no real explanation as to why I should stop, right? They were just messing about, being idiots, and maybe some are involved in the case and showing resistance in a dark way, right? Stuff like that, okay, separate. Susan Veach, she's not showing resistance in stopping people from going out there to try and cover up anything. She's not about that. She's just maybe wording it in a sharper way. She doesn't want anyone else to go out there in an unnecessary way to end up hurting themselves and being endangered, when Kenny Veach is supposedly being alive and so ignorant and not considerate to tell others out there that he is okay and that he is alive. Linking back to Dale's comment here, that if Kenny was leaving stuff out there, setting up items to make it seem like he is out there or something, way back in the past or just recently, with doing that, it could be seen as playing mind games, right? Messing about, trying to trick people, confuse people. It would come across as if Kenny Veach is playing games. Kind of like how Sharon Pilgrim, in a way, was playing games when she played the hot or cold to that fellow investigator or something, saying, I'm going to try and solve the case. And she said, oh, goody, can't wait, I'm so excited. I'll let you know if you're close to the truth or not. It shouldn't be treated as a game, right? If you know something, there's nothing like legal where you got to hold it back. Why not share it with the general public? Make it easier for everybody. You start making it harder for others, then maybe there's an agenda, you're involved in some way and you don't want it to be solved, or you just want people to go round and round in circles and keep on trying to solve it when it doesn't need to be solved because there's no mystery. I mean, there's just different outlooks and ways about it, right? Some people step on in and want you to stop or no longer participate, right? Because they may be involved. But then there'll be some people out there who aren't trying to cause resistance, but try and help people instead of wasting their time on something or someone, because the person issuing out the advice, they know more than the searchers do. And maybe that's where things go wrong. Maybe that's where the people that are told to stop from that individual, told it's not worth the time going out there because Kenny isn't out there, that's when the pushback towards Susan is, well then, if you're advising us to not go out, if you're advising us to stop because you know he's not out there, well then prove it to us once and for all. Maybe that's the final argument. If you're going to tell someone to stop and you've got a valid reason as to why, it needs to be backed up with evidence and material. If not, then you shouldn't be in a position to be telling people what to do and what not to do. That's just a general way of saying it, okay? So I can understand why Susan would inform people it's not worth heading out there to search if you're directly looking for Kenny, because Kenny's elsewhere. I get that. But I also understand that the general public that hear that would want evidence for it to be confirmed, validated, and elaborated, so it's more believable, right? But I just don't think maybe that's happened to the degree people want the outcome to be, okay? But as I've also said, some things are ongoing, right? You can have your suspicions and your ideas that a person could be alive. You might have a bit of material to reinforce it, but do you have the final nail in the coffin? No, that might be ongoing. So, like with the whole evidence talk, maybe some of it is pending. But I can also understand, whilst it's pending, there's no harm in other people continuing with their investigations, providing they're doing it with their own consent and they're aware of the dangers. Because whether Kenny Veach is out there or not in the deserts, one thing for certain, there are mysteries, unsolved mysteries out there. Whether it be the supposed M cave, or if it be the keyhole cave, or the paranormal voices down Pitcher Canyon, or the changes to the environment such as around the mine shaft and the crystal skull, or the sword and tent hideout spot, or the time being lost and equipment malfunctioning on itself and shutting down for unknown, unexplained reasons. All kinds of mysteries out there. Whether they're linked to Kenny or not, there is weird stuff going on. So, hikers should be able to go out there because of those mysteries, because they may see more or solve stuff along the way. So I can understand it from both sides, and maybe it needs elaborating later, but let's just catch up with the comments. KD says, my opinion, red tape used as a marker to signal there's something there to help people. Stacked rocks stand out as like a background when exploring remote area. High contrasting colours, visibility on jackets, backpacked hats, it would stand out, make you maybe more safe and well known. This way, if something happens to you, it'd be much easier to see the visibility and find you and etc. Yeah, I understand that. Yeah, that's like when people wear the glowing, the reflective colours in nighttime if you walk in or on a bike. Yeah. Says this could also be a double-edged sword though. There are malicious entities out there, groups of people in the area. They too would be able to see the high visibility items much easier. Good work on the video though, with even more strange activities in this area, more unknown people going about leaving caches and markers. Yep, I get that, understand. And also, you know, with it being reported and documented now, just not just from me, but also J Chuck, there's always that small chance that someone could be watching and someone goes to the area and destroys it, damages it, takes the package away, you know, and then it creates another mystery of who did that, who put it there, and then who took it away. So it seems to be maybe when things are documented, people are watching in the background. Moving on. This guy, Discover, far off places, saying, I've been wanting to go into that area and do some exploring, but before I go into areas, I find so many things to make it worth my travel in a particular area I'm travelling to. I've quite the list of things to find in that mountain range, everything from cabins, mine shafts, airplane wrecks, old machinery, and many other things. I was thinking about putting a geocache out the mine shaft with a log sheet inside whilst I'm out there. The mountain range is pretty incredible and there's so many things to investigate and explore in the desert. Okay, I don't have a specific date yet. I'll be out there probably in the next week or two. I'm a bit tired of those negative temperatures out here in Alaska. Would there be anything specific you have as for request for whilst out there? I have all sorts of camera equipment and drones with me, so if you have to pictures of a specific area from a specific angle, I can most certainly do that. I guess the suggestions would be down Pitcher Canyon and just before that, where the M Cave, covered up M Cave, and the talk of that was from different angles there to see if there are any other M Caves higher up, lower down, right? See if anything's changed there or if anything has been removed or added, right? As for the sword and tent location, there's no point because it's just no longer there, so there wouldn't be anything there. But your concept and idea of having some kind of log sheet, well, that would be very useful if people actually made use of it. Then you would know who comes in and who comes out, the date, the time, and who it's by. That would be good, right? It'd be a good way of tracking who's been there. It's never been done before, so that could be very helpful in the case. So this person looks like another individual wanting to hike out there. Jeff Clark added on, telling him though that with the drones and using equipment, it could be taken away from you or you could get in trouble because, you know, supposedly it's a no-fly zone because of military in the area. Because of that, and I don't know why Jeff Clark's comment disappeared, but Discover responded back to the initial comment saying, and this is why I don't say anything, because there's always someone who got to cry about something and always wants to have a say over what other people are doing, especially when it doesn't affect them in any shape, way or form. I'll go ahead and unsubscribe from here if this is the kind of people that are on his particular page I don't care to be a part of. You just sit at home and continue policing on the computer whilst I live my life. Now, just as a heads up, Discover far off places. Jeff Clark, maybe his approach quite, I don't know, sharp to the point. He's only saying that because he doesn't want you to lose out or get in trouble, that's all. And in addition, Discover, Jeff Clark has been out there and he's documented it on his channel, so he's aware of the environment and the certain rules and regulations, that's it. Jeff says, great, love to see the footage of you flying your drone around the DNWR, fly over that border to the west while you're at it. Now, Jeff Clark isn't literally meaning that, because if you did, you would get in trouble. Cleo, you're welcome. David, very odd happenings occur there. Well, we don't know. Yeah. Guy called James, a different James, saying, if you can't pronounce the guy's name correct, why even say it? Or leave the link in the description. Dummy, learn to talk. Just stick to climbing trees and cutting them down. You know, I think when you talk, it's just a waste of time because you're just an impetuous individual that doesn't even understand these videos. Guy called John saying, I've been away, sorry, haven't been here in a while, lost a family member, took it bad, but thankfully I'm fine and I'm back. I guess I've got a lot of catching up to do. Okay, sorry to hear that. I mean, you might have quite a bit of catching up to do, John, but it means, I guess, distractions and a lot to do to maybe help pass time or just to learn in general about the case. And, you know, I've covered Dylan rounds too, so if you're interested in that, it's available on the channel. That appears to be it for the comments, though. I said apologies once again if the flow of this video wasn't exactly great with my narration, just because of all the coughing, but it seems to have died down now. You know, still a bit there, but not as bad as it was earlier on. Sometimes it's a bit awkward. If you think that I'm laughing, I'm not. It's because I'm trying to hold a cough out. So if I'm like like that, I'm not laughing or, you know, because I can imagine at times in videos if there's a serious moment and I kind of like cough, but it sounds like I'm laughing and holding it back. I'm not laughing, okay? I know what people can be like, so I'm just explaining it now in advance, okay? It's hard talking whilst holding back a cough as well, but if I just keep on coughing, then it's just gonna, what do you call it, make it worse, so I've just got to hold it back. But yeah, referring back to that earlier point, the likes of Susan Veach, which, for example, advising other people not to go out there, not to search for Kenny because he's just not out there. And there's been some material and evidence along the way provided to say that he isn't and he is alive. Well then, what else are you supposed to do then? Where else are you supposed to go then? And the real answer is, we don't know, or not at this moment. So really, I'd understand for this period of time of where there's uncertainty, there's no harm in going out there nevertheless, just for personal, you know, reasons, because you want to, because you enjoy the nature, you find it fun, right? Not everything has to be about Kenny Veach or searching for Kenny. It could simply be going out there to search for a mysterious cave, the M Cave, or those other mysteries which have been indirectly captured on camera when people have been looking for Kenny. It's opened up different mysteries, whether they're connected or not. So people have their own interest for certain reasons. I get that. But I also understand Susan Veach not wanting others to go out there on behalf of Kenny and get injured through it. Susan Veach, I guess, with the mindset and the understanding that Kenny Veach isn't the type of person to inform others that he is okay and he's doing fine and, you know, he is alive. He's not going to acknowledge that, so people will continuously think that he is dead or he's out there, so they'll keep searching. And I can understand that, going around in circles, wild goose chase, not getting anywhere. So there's different outlooks of it, right? And as I was saying, when you're told not to do something or advised not to do it, it might, what do you call it, get on people's backs, get up people's backs. Like, how dare you tell me? Why are you telling me? You know, where's your proof to say why I shouldn't? And if they don't provide it or they can't at this moment, it's like, well, then don't talk, silence. So I think there's a bit of a communication breakdown at the end of it. I don't think this will ever be resolved or sorted. Okay, that's just my prediction. It's negative, but it is what it is. But at least whilst I'm around, I'll at least try and provide that balance, which others can't demonstrate. So that will help keep things alive and in some order, okay? So this was just a video in between. Wasn't quite able to do a focused one today because of the cough, but also I didn't want it to overshadow my previous video, okay? But I will return back to the mine shaft maybe next time. And then I think one more video after that, and then I can acknowledge Jeff Claw's important point. Okay, Jeff? So, all in all, hopefully you enjoyed the video or found it somewhat interesting. Try and figure out what the title of this video will be, right? Because it is a discussion-based one. And yeah, we'll leave it there for now. Thanks for watching, goodbye, and good night.